Welcome to the Talking Book Voices, the podcast. Get ready to embark on the adventure with us as we dive into and celebrate the magic of the Texas Talking Book program. Let's raise our voices together and make the world of literature accessible for all. The Texas Talking Book program is a division of the State Library and Archives Commission and serves as a regional library for the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled, a division of the Library of Congress. The Talking Book program provides specialized library services to individuals who have a qualifying visual, physical, or reading disability, such as dyslexia. In each episode of the Talking Book Voices, we'll delve into the heart of the program, uncovering its history, sharing inspiring stories, and exploring the vast collection of materials it has to offer. We'll bring you the latest updates, interviews with program experts and patrons, and useful tips to make the most of this invaluable program for Texans and beyond. So whether you're an avid reader, someone who with a print disability seeking accessible materials, or just curious to learn about this great program, this podcast is made for you. Don't forget to visit us at www.texastalkingbooks.org for more information. So let's begin the Texas Talking Book Voices, a podcast by the Texas State Library and Archives Commission.
Did you know the Talking Book program offers bi-monthly author talks? Well, we do. You don't need any special technology. All you need is a phone. For more information, call us at 1-800-252-9605. Hi, podcast listeners. My name is Laura Jean, and I've been a Reader's Advisory Librarian here at TBP for 10 years now. Before that, I worked as a library assistant at various different academic and public libraries for 12 years.
Hi, my name is Victor, and I've been working here at TBP as a reader consultant for almost 12 years. Before that, I worked as a customer service rep at Sears, and before that, as a switchboard operator at Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. What is Reader's Advisory? One of our major responsibilities as reader consultants is to know about the different types of books that are available to our readers. One way to categorize books very broadly is by fiction and nonfiction. What exactly is fiction? For our purposes, fiction books are written stories that describe imaginary events and people, like fantasy and science fiction, right?
Yes, those are wonderful examples of genre fiction, which is a type of fiction with its own set of rules, but there's also literary fiction, which can be quite different from genre fiction.
Oh, literary fiction, like the stuff we read in college, right? The books that win all the literary awards?
Yes. Well, some people do enjoy literary fiction for its emphasis on the lyrical language and the innovative writing styles that are used, and we'll most likely cover literary fiction in a later episode. However, it's really important to state right here that literary fiction is not innately better than genre fiction. Every genre has both good and bad writing, and as you know, every reader their book and every book their reader, right?
Absolutely. We just want people to read books that they enjoy. Okay, so I understand what fiction is, but what is genre fiction?
Oh, that's a great question, Victor. Genre fiction is also known as formula fiction or popular fiction. Basically, they're fictional works written with the intent of fitting into a specific literary genre in order to appeal to readers and fans already familiar with that genre.
Oh, like how a romance novel always has a happy ending.
Exactly. Each genre has rules that they always adhere to and with which fans are aware and expect. Another example, if you're a mystery fan and you read a mystery where you can't go back and follow the clues to come to the same conclusion as the book, you feel cheated.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, what are these genres that fall into genre fiction?
Well, I'll describe some of the main genres, but first, know that these are very broad definitions. Most genres contain all sorts of subgenres, and I just want to give a brief overview here. So, there's mystery fiction. That has a pure puzzle at the core of the book, or it poses a quandary that is solved during the course of the book. And then there's fantasy, which is a genre of speculative fiction which involves themes of the supernatural, magic, and imaginary worlds and creatures.
What's speculative fiction?
Speculative fiction encompasses all the genres that depart from realism or the strict imitation of everyday reality. Or think of it this way. Speculative fiction answers the question, what if? So, fantasy asks, what if magic was real? And horror asks, what if our deepest, darkest fears were real? And science fiction asks, what if futuristic technology was real? And then there's horror. So it's another speculative fiction genre that's intended to disturb, frighten, or scare an audience, generally with an ending where the threat still lurks. Science fiction typically deals with imaginative and futuristic concepts within the scope of current science as we know it.
So, no explosion in space, right?
Right. You can't break the laws of thermodynamics or the laws of physics as we currently are aware of them. It irritates fans. Or then I guess it becomes fantasy. And then there's romance. This primarily focuses on the relationship and romantic love between two people, typically with an emotionally satisfying and optimistic ending. And then there's historical fiction, which is realistic fiction set in the past, generally a time period before the life and experiences of the author. And westerns, which are typically set in the Old West or the Wild West, between the California Gold Rush of 1849 and the closing of the frontier in 1880, and commonly set in the southwestern United States.
Okay, well, that is helpful. Are there any unifying characteristics of genre fiction?
Well, sure. As we stated before, they're all categorized by specific genres: mystery, romance, etc. And the story is told using the tropes, plot structures, and genre conventions of that specific genre. So, when you consider appeal factors like setting, characterization, storyline, pacing, mood, and the language or style, they are going to conform to the convention for that specific genre. For example, westerns are going to have a strong sense of place, as are historical fiction and fantasy, because they are landscape genres.
Landscape genres. I'm not sure I know about that classification.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Reader's Advisory Guide to Genre Fiction has a way of categorizing genres by type, and I found that it's been really helpful for me when trying to wrap my head around genres. Most readers, myself included, don't always think of genres when we think about why we like to read a certain book. For example, I might just want a book that really elicits an emotional reaction from me, or I might want something fast-paced that keeps me on the edge of my seat. So there are 4 types of genre. There are emotional genres. This includes horror, romance, relationship fiction, and gentle reads. And in these books, the mood is the most important characterization. It's set to evoke an emotional response from the reader, whether that's satisfaction for romance and relationship fiction, terror for horror, or comfort for gentle reads. And the language and the pacing is used to support and enhance that mood. The second type of genre is landscape, like historical fiction, westerns, and fantasy. And in these genres, the setting and the frame are the most important detail. Those background details and location in which the story takes place, whether it's real or imagined, is set to fully immerse the reader in that world. and it's also known as world building. And then the mood. The mood's also important in these books because it helps establish an authentic and believable world. Then there are adrenaline genres, and this encompasses adventure, suspense, thrillers, and romantic suspense. In these books, the pacing is fast-paced, and it's the most important element to the readers. And then the plot is also important. In these, they tend to be intricately detailed with multiple plot twists. And finally, we have intellectual genres like mysteries and science fiction, literary fiction, and psychological suspense. In these, the plot is the most important part. They include puzzles that engage the mind. They could be ethical or social issues like in literary fiction or science fiction, or the inner workings of a disturbed mind like in psychological suspense or just plain old mystery. I'm telling you, Victor, it was a game changer for me because all of a sudden I understood my own reading preferences better, just looking at them from a different perspective.
How so?
Well, so I love historical fiction. I'm not sure I could have told you why, except that I also like nonfiction history. But when I learned it was a landscape genre, my mind was blown. So that's why I like fantasy too. I like the world building element. So then maybe I might like Westerns. And you know what? I did. And I've had readers confide that they feel like they're odd because they like horror and romance. They feel that it's a weird combination of types of books to enjoy, but it's not if you realize that they're both emotional genres.
Okay, I love horror, okay? But I don't like romances. I mean, those happy endings just don't ring true to me. That's just not how life is.
That is fair. That is completely fair. And this is not an exact science or a one-size-fits-all. It's just a tool that can sometimes help. Also, I would argue that you're not a fan of romance because you find it too formulaic. And so that particular genre's formula of tropes are just not to your liking.
Okay, that's fair. So basically, it would be more helpful for us to consider the appeal factors for a type rather than a specific genre.
It can be helpful. If you have a reader who has read all of the Westerns in the collection, for example, it can help you brainstorm other genres that might satisfy the appeals that drew them to Westerns in the first place, and then expand their reading options while still meeting those appeals. So if I've read all of the Westerns in your collection, obviously world building or setting is important to me.
So I could suggest historical fiction or fantasy because that feels like a leap to me. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction would be to suggest something like a C.J. Box book because it takes place in contemporary rather than the historical American West.
No, actually, that's a great approach, Victor. Setting's still really important in those books, even though we may categorize them as mysteries, and that brings us to genre blends. But first, let me answer your question. None of these are hard and fast rules. They are simply tools that we can use to think about what readers want in different ways. But the best way is to ask open-ended questions when you're talking to a reader and listening actively to what they have to say. Then we can make suggestions.
Gotcha. And what are genre blends?
Okay, I won't go into too much into genre blends now. We usually mention them in the genre-specific episodes of the podcast, but genre blends combine two genres together and generally follow the conventions and tropes of both genres. So earlier you mentioned the perfectly wonderful idea of using C.J. Box's contemporary Western mysteries as a potential suggestion for someone who likes Westerns. And even though you might categorize these as a mystery, first with a puzzle or quandary that the main character must solve, these books also have a strong sense of place. And they're also set in the American West. So this book may still satisfy that desire for a Western fan as well as a mystery fan.
Well, Laura Jean's given us some things to think about. the fiction genres. Here's a question for you. What is it about fiction that you like? What draws you into a fictional story? Do you like the puzzle of a mystery or the emotions evoked by a romance novel? Maybe you prefer the fast pace of an adrenaline genre like a thriller. Thinking about what specifically you enjoy about a book or a genre helps us make the best recommendations. And it helps us think outside the box to help you find books in similar genres or from similar authors you might enjoy. If you are a patron of the Talking Book Program, TBP, and would like to receive personalized reader's advisory, please reach out to us. You can contact us by calling 1-800-252-9605 or by sending an email to tbpral@tsl.texas.gov. Our dedicated team is ready to assist you and provide the recommendations tailored to your interests and reading preferences. We look forward to helping you discover new and exciting books. Well, that's just about all the time we have. I hope you take the opportunity to ask us for tips on what to read next. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Talking Book Voices.